All right, picture this for a second. A Ferrari without a roaring V12. I know, it sounds almost impossible, right? For decades, the very soul of Maranello was defined by the combustion engine. But what happens when the ultimate traditionalist hypercar brand completely unplugs from the past? Well, let's dive right in, because today we are looking at a machine that is sending absolute shockwaves through the automotive world, the Ferrari Luce. So is this a betrayal of its heritage, or is it literally the ultimate evolution of the prancing horse? Throughout this explainer, we're going to systematically dissect the highly controversial Ferrari Luce to see if an EV can actually possess a true mechanical soul. We're going to look at the unprecedented design choices, the staggering power figures, and the incredibly complex acoustic engineering that Ferrari has patented just for this car. By the end of our journey, we'll see exactly how Maranello is trying to prove that a battery electric vehicle can still give you that genuine, vibrating Ferrari feeling. Here is our roadmap for today. 1. A radical electric departure. 2. Unprecedented power and specs. 3. Designed by tech royalty. 4. Engineering a mechanical soul. And 5. The verdict on Maranello. Starting with Section 1. A radical electric departure. The EV controversy. There is a really stark contrast right now in the supercar industry. While Ferrari is diving headfirst into a fully electric future with the Luce, their main competitors are slamming on the brakes. I mean, Lamborghini recently canceled their planned EV altogether. Their CEO, Stefan Winkelmann, basically stated outright that buyer interest was close to zero. And it's not just them. Other brands like McLaren and Aston Martin are similarly delaying or just staying non-committal. But Ferrari? They've taken a massive risk, pushing full steam ahead with a roughly $640,000 electric gamble. Moving to a dedicated electric architecture gave Ferrari's designers a level of freedom they've never really had before. By ditching the traditional mid-engine layout, they were able to create this totally unique monobox shape. Just to put it in perspective, if you compare it to their Purosangue SUV, the Luce is 2 inches longer and 2 inches lower, yet it remarkably seats 5 people. That is an absolute first for a Ferrari road car. It's almost like a spaceship, cleanly cloaking a spacious passenger cell inside this incredibly aerodynamic form. Section 2. Unprecedented power and specs. Let's do some rapid-fire numbers. 1,035 horsepower. Think about that for a second. This figure blows past any other road-going Ferrari to date. But with a Ferrari, the power delivery is what really matters. And here, it's heavily rear-biased. The front axle gives you 282 horsepower, while the rear axle pumps out a massive 831 horsepower. So even though it's all-wheel drive, it still gives you that classic, tail-happy rear-wheel drive sensation that people expect. So the really crucial point here is how all that power actually meets the road. The Lucid uses 4 synchronous permanent magnet electric motors, meaning there's a dedicated motor for each individual wheel. This allows for what Ferrari calls a vehicle control unit, which updates handling targets 200 times every single second. The control you get across the lateral, longitudinal, and vertical axes is just unprecedented. Formula One's Charles Leclerc drove it and noted that it simply doesn't roll in the corners. It just stays completely glued to the ground. And the result of all that insane traction, 0 to 62 miles per hour in just 2.5 seconds. Now, what makes this genuinely mind-bending is that the Luce weighs nearly 5,000 pounds. That's 2,260 kilograms. Yet, because of that instant EV torque, which goes from 0 to full tilt in under a second, all that heavy weight seemingly just vanishes the second you launch off the line. Let's quickly summarize the rest of these staggering specs. It's built on a cutting-edge 800-volt architecture for rapid charging, utilizing a 122 kilowatt-hour structural battery pack that they designed entirely in-house. It yields an estimated 330 miles of WLTP range and a top speed of 193 miles per hour. By essentially replacing a heavy traditional engine with a low-slung battery pack, they actually lowered the center of gravity by 95 millimeters compared to the Purosangue, and they massively improved the car's torsional rigidity in the process. Section 3. Designed by tech royalty, the Apple influence. Okay, so for the design, Ferrari did something totally unexpected. They hired the design agency Lovefrom. Now, if that name sounds familiar, it's because it's headed by former Apple design chief Johnny Ive and his collaborator Mark Newson. Yes, the exact same minds that helped shape the iPhone and modern personal computing. Ferrari brought them in for a fresh, multidisciplinary perspective, and the result is this highly functional form with incredibly few shut lines. It's got a floating nose, center-opening rear-hinge doors, and massive 23 and 24-inch staggered wheels, all designed to minimize aerodynamic drag. Now let's step inside the interior because this is where it gets really interesting. Instead of the tech-heavy touchscreen overload you might expect from Apple alumni, they actually went in the complete opposite direction. They focused entirely on tactile feedback. We're talking CNC machined physical buttons with actual palm rests, a gorgeous 19-part recycled aluminum steering wheel. You've got these beautiful OLED displays that shift colors organically depending on your driving mode. And get this, an e-ink smart key that docks right into a central glass console crafted by the creators of Gorilla Glass. It's a total rejection of visual noise in favor of pure physical quality. Section 4. Engineering a mechanical soul. Tactile and sonic feedback. This next part is perhaps the absolute most fascinating innovation on the entire car. Ferrari refused to just play fake V12 engine noises through speakers like some other brands do. Instead, they patented a system based on total authenticity. Here's how it works. Step 1. A precision accelerometer on the rear axle captures the actual dynamic vibrations of the electric motors and rotating components. Step 2. A proprietary system equalizes these real mechanical frequencies. And step 3, it amplifies them. The engineers literally liken it to an electric guitar. It's an electric instrument for sure, but the vibration and the sound you hear are entirely real and physically generated. And to tackle the lack of physical gear shifts, Ferrari introduced something called torque shift engagement. Using the large steering wheel paddles, a driver can actively emulate the rhythm of a combustion car. So entering a corner, you click the left paddle to increase regenerative braking, which simulates the engine braking you'd get from a downshift. Exiting the corner, you click the right paddle to feed in progressively more torque, just like upshifting. There is even a torque meter on the dash telling you the optimal moment to shift. It forces you to actively drive the car, rather than just passively pointing and shooting. Now, to provide a completely objective look at the underlying rationale for this massive shift, our Italian sources pointed out a pretty striking thermodynamic reality. Thermal engines, despite their glorious sound and history, waste about 80% of the energy they produce as heat and friction. Electric motors, they only waste about 20%. So proponents of the EV transition argue that clinging to thermal engines is actually technologically outdated. From their perspective, adopting the vastly superior efficiency of electric motors is simply the next logical step in engineering evolution. Which brings us to Section 5, the verdict on Maranello, purists versus progress. The initial feedback from the people who arguably understand Ferrari dynamics better than anyone, their Formula One drivers, has been completely stellar. Charles Leclerc highlighted the unique driving dynamics, pointing out the incredibly low center of gravity and the sheer sensation of being glued to the track over the curbs. For him, the versatility and the distinct driving experience still perfectly encapsulate that very special feeling you expect the second you sit behind the wheel of a Ferrari. Yet, as you can imagine, the debate out there is intense. On one side, you have the purists who are mourning the loss of the iconic V12 scream, arguing an EV can never truly be a Ferrari. But on the other side, pro-EV defenders and automotive analysts point out that Enzo Ferrari himself was a relentless innovator. He cared about winning and pushing technological boundaries above all else. And considering that 95% of the Luce's components, from the battery to the motors to the software, were engineered entirely in-house in Maranello, a lot of people argue this is as authentic a Ferrari as anything that has ever come before it. Ultimately, the company's ethos regarding this $640,000 risk is best summed up by Ferrari executive chairman John Elkann. He put it perfectly, stating, "We are expanding what Ferrari can be, not losing what Ferrari is." That is a massive, bold claim, basically asking the whole world to accept a complete paradigm shift in what defines automotive passion. Well, before we wrap up, I want to extend a massive thank you to all our viewers and listeners for joining us today for this explainer. Taking the time to dive deep into the engineering, design, and philosophy behind groundbreaking machines like this is exactly what makes our communities so fantastic. Your curiosity is what drives us to keep unpacking these complex topics together. So, I leave you with this final thought. Ferrari has built a true mechanical soul into a battery-powered frame, completely expanding the very definition of their legendary brand. But when the rubber finally meets the road, will the diehard Ferraristi actually agree? Thanks for joining me today, and as always, keep asking the big questions.